Hey guys, it's Park with Richmond Stress and Anxiety. So up to this point, we've talked about human pain, how it's universal. We've talked about how often we have limited control over that pain. We've talked about how we can drop the anchor. We can drop into what's actually happening within us and around us. And as we talked about last time, mindfulness and acceptance are essential elements. They complement one another. And acceptance can really get a bad rap. A lot of people can make it synonymous to resignation or that we condone what's going on. And I think about it in a lot of instances, it's the only sane alternative. It's simply that we stop expecting people or situations or ourselves to be different than how they always are. And we can also reframe acceptance into a word called willingness, which I prefer. And willingness, we can use a metaphor to explain it. If I asked you right now to put your hand out front, we were actually sitting across from each other, and I had a pen in my hand, and I said, could I please ram this pen through your hand? And of course, you would say, no, it's going to be painful. It's going to hurt, and I want to avoid that pain. And then if I said, okay, if I ram this pen through your hand, it will save everyone you love from imminent danger or death. And in an instance, for most of us, the answer would change. And why is that? It's still going to be equally painful, right? But now it's tied to a value. So we're more willing to have that pain. And a lot of times we can use this acceptance or willingness, and we can say, well, maybe if I'm willing to put myself in painful situations, like social situations, or in an assertive conversation that makes me nervous, maybe after a while I'll get habituated to it, right? And the pain will go down. I'll get more used to it. And I get that. Trust me, I've tried. And I encourage you that can happen, but I encourage you to look at that as like icing on the cake, right? Because we don't want to use acceptance and willingness as just another control strategy. So maybe we can consider that the goal is not to feel better, but to be better at feeling so that we can be better at living. And so I want to keep this, again, experiential. So for this exercise, you can think that there's two primal emotions, fear and love. And you can let those two emotions be your guide on how you want to act in this situation. I want you to bring to mind a situation where you get triggered. It's your hang up, right? And if you're like me, a laundry list comes to mind. One or two at the top. Control is a good example to use here. And if we think about control, and we can think about it in terms of dominoes falling, right? The first domino is the trigger of the situation. And it's, try as we may, we can't avoid a lot of the triggers in our life, right? So they are there. When the trigger emerges, it turns on our emotional weather or alarms, right? And the trigger that makes us feel the need to control knocks into emotions, thoughts of this shouldn't be here, this should be different than how it is, bodily sensations, all this stuff that arises, the urge to control the situation. And then that domino knocks into our action, and we act on that stuff because we're trying to really avoid this. We're trying to problem solve this. We don't like to feel this way. Therefore, we act to solve the problem. So bring to mind, it could be control or it could be a different issue altogether. Bring to mind when you get triggered and you habitually act. And if we go back to dropping the anchor, so think about when that first domino arises, the trigger happens. What comes up for you? I want you to zero in here. It's the story that's playing, that this shouldn't be like this story. It's my job to control this. This can't happen. What are the sensations that arise? nausea, the clenching, the burning, whatever it is. What are the emotions that come up? All these alarms that are going off internally. Really think about it. Where do you feel that urge to act? How does it show up within you in body and mind? Then how do we judge that stuff? Maybe we tell ourselves, I was in such a good mood. Now this happened. This shouldn't be like this. I'm screwed up for feeling this way. Why am I like this? And we can go to therapy for years on end trying to get rid of this part, and it probably won't work. And then we come to our choice point, and this is the willingness part. Are we going to blindly obey that stuff? Picture the ramifications of that. You know how that story ends, how you feel about yourself in the end, how you impact those around you, or how you miss out on opportunities when you blindly obey this stuff. Or are we going to welcome this stuff in? Are we going to treat it like that scared orphan that shows up to our door? We're going to breathe into it, expand around it. Picture yourself doing that, just allowing that feeling to be here, welcoming it in. And then I want you to zero out. Recognize the pain's still here. We're not trying to bypass it. But what else is here? What else that's meaningful? The faces of the people you love, or an opportunity to step up socially or at work, or maybe sobriety, or maybe your self-respect. You want to act in a way that's aligned with who you are, who you want to be. That's here too. How do you want to act in this moment? Assume this is your last day. Who do you want to be in this moment right now? What do you want to be about? And then we come back to the pain. It's still here, right? And all of it's here. Like we talked about last time, all the rooms of consciousness are here. And it can all be here. And maybe we can entertain the idea that it's not, I want to be loving, but I feel agitated in this moment. But it's, I want to be loving and I feel agitated in this moment. They can coexist. And then we can commit to what we can control. And that's that third domino. We can commit to controlling our hands, mouth, and feet, and acting in a way that's important to us. So finish off this visualization with actually visualizing what you want to do in that moment. Maybe it's not acting on an impulse to control. Maybe it's stepping up with all the shakiness in a situation. Maybe it's speaking up in an instance where you're not comfortable with what's going on around you. So a couple questions. Can life start now without needing to edit or delete any of it? And can the focus be shifted to being willing to have the unpleasantness while stepping towards what we want to do in our life? And I want to ask you if you'd be willing to practice this in either the situation that you imagined, or God knows life will present you plenty of opportunities. You zero in, notice and name what's here. You observe it like you're that curious scientist and this is the subject. You breathe into it. Welcome it in. Make that emotion an object. Observe it. And then you zero out to what else is going on here, what the value is. And then you decide to act in a way as if it's your very last day on this earth. And this is the memory people will have of you. How do you want to step up? Okay, so as always, I would love to hear feedback on this, especially if you tried this and found it helpful, and any details about your experience, if you'd be willing and courageous enough to share them. My email is parke, P-A-R-K-E, at richmondanxiety.com. My work cell is 804-210-7891. Feel free to text or call that. If you're curious about therapy with me, or if you're looking to connect with another therapist and you're struggling, please reach out. I would love to hear from you. And I will look forward to seeing you in the next video.